Hi, everyone. My name is Claudia Figelman. Good afternoon and welcome to the Visual Sound Asynchronous versus Synchronous Learning. Thank you for visiting with us today. I'm an account manager on the education team. Our presenter today is Corey Freed. Corey is the Visual Sound Education Consultant. She's a former classroom teacher and both Google and Microsoft certified. Corey will be sharing some resources after the call, so please enter your email address in the chat box located on the upper right-hand corner of your screen. And today, we want to let you know today's session is being recorded. Thank you for attending. Corey?
All right, thank you, Claudia.
I'm sorry for
Welcome,
being
everyone.
late. I was going, can you hear me? And I guess you guys couldn't.
All right, well, I am going to mute your microphone, but you can unmute yourself if you need to, or you muted yourself before I could hit it. All right, welcome everyone to today's session on asynchronous versus synchronous learning. So as Claudia mentioned, I am both Microsoft and Google certified. I am an innovator for Google and the fellow for Microsoft. Today, we're going to be talking about asynchronous versus synchronous, what that looks like in your classrooms, or lack of classrooms, I should say, and a couple of different tools that are available if you are looking for ways to use them with your students right now while everyone is at home. I know Governor Wolf announced today that we will be out until at least April 6th at this point. All right, so what is asynchronous versus synchronous? So asynchronous learning is when everyone is on their own schedule. So when you look at, like, for example, your master's degree courses or any online things that you've done, those are normally asynchronous because the teacher is going to post, for example, a discussion point and everyone else is going to just respond. Everyone's working at their own pace, at their own time, and eventually everyone syncs up with the due dates. Synchronous is when you have a very specific schedule. So for example, right now we are synchronous because we told you at 3 p.m. we were going to be hosting this webinar. However, if you are watching the recording of this webinar later, you are asynchronous because you are participating at your own time. So what does asynchronous look like in a K-12 classroom? Well, most of the time your assignments are going to be posted to a learning management system. These learning management systems can be Schoology, Google Classroom, Microsoft Teams, or another variety of resources that are available to you. Students contribute to discussion threads, collaborations on documents, but everything has a specific due date and no one is working at the exact same time. This is really good if you're doing project-based learning with your students because it allows your students to work at their own pace, ask questions, receive feedback from the teacher, and continue working when they're able to. So like I said, there are a bunch of different learning management systems out there. These are the most common that are illustrated here, but they're not the only ones available. Google Classroom and Microsoft Teams are probably the most common in the K-12 classroom setting. Canvas and Edmodo are also very popular in those grade levels because they're easy for teachers and students to operate. Blackboard is what you're normally going to find at the collegiate level. It is a little more intense of what you can do with it, but it is truly good for asynchronous learning. So what does synchronous learning look like? All the students are logged in at the same time. The teacher is leading the instruction in real time, and often the class is being led through webinar software with video and audio capabilities, such as we are right now on Google Meet. Students can be collaborating on documents, but they will be collaborating in real time. So right now, as I said, we are on Google Meet, but there are many other webinar options available for teachers. Microsoft Teams is one of the most common. Skype and Google Hangouts are still available, but they are kind of on the way out. So Skype has been replaced by Teams and Hangouts has been replaced by Meet. There is also a third option of Zoom, which is very popular among schools. Other options that I don't recommend would be Facebook Live, Twitch, and YouTube Live. These are excellent for personal use for broadcasting videos. However, they don't have as much control for you as the presenter. And also, you have to worry about your students if they're under 13 using things like Facebook and YouTube without parental consent. So what are some really good resources for collaborating with your students? Well, my personal favorite is Flipgrid. And if you haven't used Flipgrid, we will look at it in a few moments. But there are a lot of other options as well. Goose Chase EDU is a very popular scavenger hunt program. You can set questions that the kids have to write answers to. You can set, for example, if you have a kindergartner class, you can set find me a triangle, and the kids have to take a picture of triangles in their house and post them. Each question you set values to, and the kids are able to score points and compete to see who can solve the scavenger hunt first. Google Drive and Office 365 offer the same type of, sorry, I'm all tongue-tied. Google Drive and Office 365 offer the same resources, but very slightly different. For example, Google Slides and PowerPoint offer the same functionality. They're just separate programs. So both of those are really good for collaboration, and it depends on what your school uses. Smart Learning Suite, most of you probably know Smart Learning Suite for their smart boards, but their software is amazing for collaboration as well. So in Smart Learning Suite collaboration, you are able to give your students activities, quizzes, games, all different things. And because they're logging in through their browser, you can log in through your browser as well, and everyone can be working together. So don't let the fact that it's connected to smart boards confuse you, because there is so much more to Smart Learning Suite. All right, so I am going to come out of this presentation right now so that I could show you some of the actual resources. So first resource we're going to look at today is Flipgrid, because it's the one that I specifically mentioned already. So Flipgrid is technically part of Microsoft, but it is its own resource, and it's really nice because you're able to give your students the ability to respond to you with videos. So you can give them questions, they can respond back to you with questions. All right, so when you're in Flipgrid, we're going to look at right now the Disco library, because these are ideas that other teachers have come up with that you can use with your own students. So for example, if we scroll down right here, we have conversation starters. And what this Flipgrid is going to do is it's going to give you a couple questions you can say to your students. For example, my aha moment. You start the video and you tell your students something about something that you're doing at home while you're not at school right now. And then your students would respond with videos as well. They could be 30-second videos. You can set it up to a minute and a half, and it gives them that opportunity to respond to you without the hassle of typing. Especially for the younger kids, typing is not always the easiest thing. So you would be able to take these activities from the Disco and create them for your own students. You can then share them on Google Classroom, Microsoft Teams, Schoology, or whatever other program you're using. So when we go back to our resources, as I said, we have Google Drive and Office 365. I'm going to show you now Smart Learning Suite online. The link for Smart Learning Suite is suite.smarttech.com. And this is the resource that you would be using if you want to use some amazing collaboration tools with your class that are not just typical PowerPoint presentations. So when you are in Smart Learning Suite, what's going to happen is you're going to have the ability to add interactivity to your presentations. We will be having a session specifically on Smart Learning Suite next week, but I just want to show you some quick resources with it. So if you click here, add the activities, you are given some selections. You can import your previously made Google Slides and PowerPoints, but you can also come over to game-based activities and create these interactive games for your students to use. It is all point and click, and it is very simple to get started. Your students would then log in using your teacher code, which you would be given. As you can see, I have my class ID right here at the top. That would be your teacher code. So students would log in with your code, and they're able to complete the activities with you. How many of you have used Google Classroom or Microsoft Teams before? You can come off mute if you'd like, or you can just comment in the chat section. All right, so I see Pat's used it before, Linda. All right, so most of you have used one or the other. So you all know how the collaboration works on Microsoft and Google. But what you might not be thinking of right now is, how can I use that asynchronously with my students? Can I give them an assignment and hope they're working together? Yes. But how do I make sure that they are working together if they're working asynchronously? Well, that's one of the best parts about both Google and Microsoft, is that you have the ability to see who's editing things. So if you click here where it says last edited, you get the nice little list that shows you exactly when they were working and how they were working. I see someone just wrote, I have Google Classroom. That is amazing. So Google Classroom does have the ability to assign small groups. And if you come to our Google Classroom session, I will definitely be showing how to do those small groups within the Google Classroom workshop. So when you're giving these assignments to small groups, you would share the file to just the specific students you want working on it. What I would recommend, as a former teacher and as someone who has definitely seen all the things happen in classrooms that can happen, I would make sure each student has a specific job. So one student might be the scheduler, one student might be the recorder, but make sure that each student has a responsibility, so that way you know they're all participating. And again, on the actual documents themselves, you can see who's working and when they're working. This is even nicer when they're working from home, because they can't claim, oh, we were sitting at the same computer, which I'm sure many of you have had students do before. All right, so like I said, Google Drive and Microsoft Office have very similar settings. So if you've never used Microsoft Office tools, the cloud-based tools for Microsoft are almost exactly the same as the Google Drive tools. You are able to collaborate with your students, you are able to have small groups working, and you are able to see those revision histories. Does anyone have any questions so far? You could either type them or come off mute, it's fine either way. Okay, so we have a very small group, I guess. Well, what I want to do now is I want to look at some different things that you can do for synchronous learning, because obviously right now we are synchronous. So if you were doing this as a class and you wanted to make sure, oh, I see a question. If students haven't used Goose Chase before, do you think they would be able to navigate the website easily? Yes, Goose Chase is very easy to navigate. It is also an app on your phone, and it's on both Android and iOS. So I could actually go to Goose Chase. So that way you can see what it looks like. And what Goose Chase does is it lets, like I said, you'll be able to set that up. Yes, Pat, I will be talking about the Asynchronous and Smart Learning Suite. We could talk about that a little bit today, and we will be having a separate session on that as well, but I will definitely answer your questions if you have some today. So when you go here to Goose Chase EDU, it gives you the obviously pricing, but I want you to be aware that because of right now, they are offering some free resources. So don't worry right now about pricing on this. So what Goose Chase EDU lets you do is you are able to set up these scavenger hunts. Now, as you can see in the sample picture, it shows a theater museum trip. And Linda just followed up on her question. She wrote, I have used it before, but not sure if you could do it with just a laptop if some of my students don't have phones. So unfortunately for the student side of it, they would need to be using their devices. It is not, you can set it up as the teacher on the computer, but you can't answer questions on the computer. So that is a really good question, Linda. And I am glad you asked it, because honestly, I probably would have forgotten to mention that. So thank you. For those of you that are interested in Goose Chase, though, the website is really easy to navigate to set things up. I would highly recommend skipping anything GPS based, just because obviously with social distancing, your kids are not going to be going anywhere specific. So you can set the questions with pictures, words, locations, all different types of clues. And again, it is a scavenger hunt app. So if you were to do a scavenger hunt on like a reading passage, you can have them answering the questions. For example, who is Romeo in love with? The answer would be Juliet. So that's how you would do these word questions. The pictures, like I said, for kindergartners, maybe take a picture of a triangle, all different things that you can be doing. They do have this game library right here, and that allows you to kind of have a preview of the type of questions you can ask and also help you so that you're not reinventing the wheel. All right, so Pat wants to know about asynchronous learning in Smart Suite Online. So we are going to go back to Smart Suite and look at that for everyone. And Pat, if I don't answer all of your questions today, I do have office hours again tomorrow from 12 to 3. And I could do all of this during office hours as well. And that goes for all of you. You are more than welcome. The schedule is posted on Visual Sound's website. I will have a screensaver up on the board that just says office hours, but as soon as I hear that little doorbell that someone came in, I will come and work with you. All right, so we're just going to go to a blank document right now for asynchronous, and I could start the new page and it sets up my document. You could also set these up directly in Google Drive if you haven't yet. It is super easy to do that, and your your school administrator would have had to pre-program that for you. I will show you that as well, just so you know what to look for. If you do not see the Smart Learning Suite in your Google Drive, please email your administrator and ask them to set it up for you. So right here in Smart Learning Suite, we're just going to title this demo and enter a title. So I'm going to call this one Students Work. Now when I go to add a new slide, it gives me the option again. Do I want to add a blank slide? Do I want to add an activity? Do I want to add a shout out? If you are doing asynchronous, avoid the shouted outs and also avoid responses. Those can only be done synchronously because it will put everything into teacher pace and your students will not be able to flip around between it. So in the asynchronous, you might go and put a page here and you might type a question. I am just going to do a check-in with my students because obviously this is a very trying time for everyone. And you might just want to ask your students, how do you feel today? So once you create the slide, and please check your spelling because obviously I did not. So once you start your slide, you're going to come down here where it says convert to activity, and you are going to convert this to a handout activity. Now what will happen is every student that logs in, they will get their own copy of the slide and they will be able to type in what they need. They will be able to handwrite answers if they have for example, if they have a tablet or a phone. If they're on a computer, they can type it. There's all different options for the students. You as the teacher will be able to view these yourself and see every student's progress. It is a little difficult for me to demonstrate the teacher view of this right now because I do not have any students currently in my class. If you were to join my class as a student, your name would appear and I would be able to click it to see your progress. So activities like the handouts obviously are the type of activities you as the teacher are able to grade. If you just want your students to practice something, this is where the game-based activities come in really handy. Smart Suite has actually created a series of game-based activities and shared them out to parents on Facebook and Twitter because these activities are the type that you're not going to be able to grade, but they're really helpful for keeping the students engaged and motivated. No, Erin, the other students would not see the answers, only the teacher would. The other students can only see their own work or the blank teacher template page. So if I was to create this activity, for example, let's create a super sort really fast to show you how easy this is. I would pick two categories. So let's say we're going to do fractions and decimals. And then it says you can put 10 items in each column. So I might put 1/2, I might put 3/4, 2/3. I'm just making up numbers right now. I might do 0.25, 0.4, and 1.7. I would then hit next, and it lets me pick my background. So you have all of these options. Pick whichever one you want and click finish. That's it. That is how easy it is to create these activities, and your students would then be able to practice this. So again, the super sorts, the fill in the blanks, all of these activities are not something that your students can grade from home, or sorry, that your students can turn into you for a grade. You would be able to know that they are doing the handouts, but not the game-based activities. Just to preview what this would look like for the students, it would open up here, and you could hear that nice little music, and then the students would be able to just drag and move things where they belong. If they obviously move it to the wrong spot, it sends it back. So again, the game-based activities are really just for your students to practice on their own and do things like that. However, the game-based activities will not be gradable. If you wanted to create a fill in the blank that's gradable, there is a way to do that using the new page. So if I come here and I write a sentence really quick, and then where it says enter description here, I would fill in the missing word. Now, when I convert it to an activity, and obviously you would put all the words that you have. So when you convert it to an activity, your students are able to move things around. So they can then click, but they can move everything. So just be careful of that. But this is how you would be able to see the students' progress, because if you have the students doing the moving around, they are able to move it, and you as the teacher are able to see where they moved everything or if they put anything else. So if instead of having a word bank, you could just have a blank space, the kids would have to come over here, pick a pen, and actually write the word. And forgive my handwriting, I'm writing with a mouse right now. But those are the type of things that your students can do that you as the teacher would be able to grade. So again, we do have a full session that will be on Smart Learning Suite. So please feel free to come back for that. The schedule is online. We will also be having sessions on Google Classroom and the different web softwares that you can use for these type of webinars. So we will have a session on Microsoft Meet, Google Meet, Microsoft Teams, and Zoom. We have about 5 minutes left in today's session. We have a session on writing. When you say writing, Erin, what do you mean by that? Do you mean on ELA type of lessons, or do you mean on how to get the students collaborating on a document? Yes, we could definitely, we do not have any webinars scheduled for that, but we could definitely do that during an office hours if you wanted to pop back in. There are a lot of great resources available for ELA right now on how to have your students doing that. There is also a really good resource that has been forming on Twitter. I will find the hashtag for you and share that out as well, because it is giving you the ability to read out loud to your students with permission from the copyrights, because as you know, you can't do that normally. Yes, Linda, I will be sharing the resources with everyone. Claudia took everyone's email address at the beginning. You like the background images for the input. Thank you. I don't know if you're referring to this background image or this background image or the one on my original Google Slides. If you are referring to the one on my Google Slides, I would actually like to just shout out, if you go to the last slide, which is the credits, I used Slides Go, which I personally like better than Slide Carnival, because Slide Carnival is a little overused at this point, and I'm sure in about 2 months we're going to say the same thing about Slides to Go, but it does give you some other options. And I like this one too. That's why I chose it. I do have it in other colors, which is what's really cool as well. If you go back to my waiting room, you'll see I had it in purple as well. Although, of course, it's not loading now. So there are some really good resources out there. We are going to be sharing them along to you. And I really appreciate all of you stopping by today. I know your time is valuable, so I hope that you got something out of this webinar. And if you have any more questions, please post them. Please come off of mute. I am here. We are around, so whatever you need. Oh, and if you don't notice already, my email address is on the final slide. So please feel free to email me with any specific questions. I am here. I'm checking my emails, and I want to be able to help everyone who needs help. All right, I will hang around for a few more moments just in case anyone else has questions. I am going to shut off the recording at this point. Thank you again for coming today, and I hope to see you again in our future webinars.